Sony camera battery lives are notoriously awful. In this week's video, I'm going to show you a really quick and easy tip to get you day-long battery life on most Sony cameras. Welcome back to Film It Friday. So let's run through the things you're going to need for this tutorial. You're going to need a screwdriver or a knife or a small coin. You're going to need 2 cable ties, some scissors, some nail clippers, some wire clippers, anything like that should work. You're going to need a cage for your camera. These are pretty cheap. I think I paid £15 for this on eBay, made by Newer, but I couldn't actually find that specific one. But there are lots on eBay made by Small Rig. They're about £23–24. And you're gonna need a small, physically small battery bank. So this is 4000 milliamp hour. If you can get a higher capacity, but keep the size of it, the physical size, the same as this, then you should be fine. And lastly, you're gonna need a small micro USB cable. The camera I'm using for this tutorial is the A6300, but this should work with the A6500. It won't work with the A6000. It'll work with the A7S2. It won't work with the A7S1, the A7R2, the A7R3, won't work with the A7R1. It'll work with the A7 II, the A7 III, it won't work with the A7 I, and it'll work with every generation of RX100 from the 4th generation, I believe. So probably the very first thing you're going to want to do is remove your lens. If you've got a small lens, then you might get away with putting the cage on with the lens already attached, but for me, I'm going to have to remove the lens, put the cage on, and then put the lens back on as quickly as possible so you don't get any dust on your sensor. So the mount on the bottom of the cage is really simple. It's just a screw thread, like a tripod thread. And having a cage on your camera anyway, for any other reason, is really handy as well. You could put microphones on it or lights, and having a cage on your camera actually protects it. If you did drop it or smash it into something, it's really good protection for that too. So let's move on to the battery bank. You want to have the USB output side on the top of your cage like this, with the USB input of your camera close as possible. If you had it the other way around like that, you'd have to have a cable running around, and it gets messy and untidy. It might get caught on things, and it can actually activate the EVF. So once you've got it in position, you're just going to want to run a cable tie between the cage and the camera body. And you want to get that really tight, really secure, and it's much better to have 2 than 1 because it can swing around if there's only 1 on there. If you put a second on, it's much more secure like that. Just make sure they're really good and tight. Okay, so you can just chop off these excess bit of cable ties. So the reason I wanted to do this in the first place was because when I was running this camera on a crane or a gimbal, you couldn't actually get access to the battery compartment. So this allows you to run it all day. So the next thing you want to do is plug in your micro USB cable from the power bank into the camera. Now Sony do say you should use a Sony USB lead, but I found that pretty much every USB lead that I've tried does work. Something I should just mention is if you turn the camera off, the battery bank is going to continue to charge the camera. So if you want to save the battery life of the battery bank itself, just unplug it. You don't have to do this all the time if you're using it steadily, but if you're going to turn it off and leave it for a few hours, I would unplug it. Okay, so you're all hooked up, you've got battery life for days, and you don't have to change the battery every 5 minutes like without the battery bank. I really hope this video helped you out. If it did, please like the video and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Film It Friday. See you again next week, and thanks for watching.